To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las
This here's
puertas.
a wildest ride in the world.
When indiscreet doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we are talking things that we would add to the parks. We like to sit down and be armchair Imagineers. That's what Brian likes to call it. And today we're going to talk about things that we would like to add to all 4 parks.
I am thinking of it more of like what's one thing you would change, which is okay. But I like your idea of add as well. So I think it's going to be a good one. Before we do all that, get out and share this with a friend. Let somebody know that you're enjoying the show. Mikhailo, what is one thing that you would change in the Magic Kingdom or add?
That's tough because the Magic Kingdom is so like quintessentially perfect, kind of. I mean, it's not like a perfect park, but like it's so like everything that it has going on is like it just feels like complete. I don't know, to me, where like you've got the Magic Kingdom, you've got all of these like old school rides. It feels timeless, I guess, is like what I'm trying to say. So it's hard to be like, oh, what's something new we can throw in there, or like what's something we can change, because right now it seems pretty good. But one thing, and this isn't like construction wise, one thing that I would change is the way that they do like the pre-entrance for hotel guests. That is something I would like the entire park to be open to hotel guests 30 minutes before, rather than just like Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. I would much rather like be able to go out throughout the entire park for that first 30 minutes, rather than just be like, because it always feels like everybody just kind of funnels into those 2 areas, and like lines are still long. like the line for Peter Pan fills up super quick. So it's like you basically just spend those 30 minutes standing in line with other guests for, like, if you want to do Peter Pan, that's what you do, is you ride Peter Pan, you get out, maybe there's like an extra 5 minutes. We've done this before where we'll get out of Peter Pan, there's like maybe like 5 minutes to spare, so we'll get on to Small World, and then we'll go ride Haunted Mansion after Small World. But if the whole park was open to everybody during that time, I feel like things would be able to be thinned out, because it's like right away we would probably run to Haunted Mansion, so that's already 2 people deciding to do something else other than what's open to hotel guests at that time. I've always thought that was weird, that it was like you get to come into the parks half an hour before everybody else, but it's really only like a couple lands that are open to you.
I can get behind that. I know that that's kind of the popular area, Fantasyland, so they're trying to give you a jump on everyone else so that you can get into a line, maybe. And I think with only a half an hour, that's kind of what you have to plan on, is just getting into one line and getting that done, and you're getting that jump on everyone else, and starting your day with something out of the way, right? I am not a proponent of riding Seven Dwarfs Mine Train for a 90-minute wait. So I think that if you can get in line and do it in 20 minutes, that I'm all for that. I really think that time needs to be used, like you need to be in line to get into the park really early. Get over there that hour early or whatever, so that you can be at the front of the line instead of being behind half of the line. But I understand your frustration. Like you are in the same area as everyone else, and if everyone was spread out across the entire park, it would really be a truly good situation for everyone. And we would see that. We saw that over at Disneyland, right? Like being on property and having that half an hour of early entry was very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't experience, but I saw people doing that, and you would hear about it. Like you can get in a couple of rides in that time and make it to another one right before they open the park to everyone else. So, having it open to having everything open at Magic Kingdom would be really beneficial to people. I'm guessing it's hard to get everything up and running in that amount of time, and have it ready to go so that it is open for a few people. I don't know for sure what that operationally looks like, but it's an interesting thought, and it would be really nice if they could do that.
It's kind of weird too. I've always kind of assumed that they don't do that because they want to be able to funnel people in early to the castle area. Because isn't that what they do? Like people can come in to the parks early, but you
Right.
can't go off and do anything, and nothing's really open. Um, but you can get into the park and you can hang out in the hub area for a while,
Hmm.
while hotel guests are going. Um, and so I've always kind of assumed that that they do that because a lot of their attention is being paid towards that area during that time, rather than because if they open up the entire park, then literally pretty much everybody's in the park that's going to be there for that morning. It's just a large amount of them are in the hub area.
And I think part of having to have the Main Street and hub area open is due to the small amount of room they have at the gate, and they don't
Yep.
have the room to fill, to hold everybody until the park opens. So, yeah, you can get your Starbucks on your way in if you need to, and do that before official park opening. So it's not a complete bust, but you're right. Like there are people that are needed to control crowd at that point. So,
Well, I talked about mine. Brian, what would you change at Magic Kingdom?
you know, it's always bothered me how much dead space there is at the back of Tomorrowland, and I would fill that with something. I don't know what, because there's not a lot of room there, but I feel like you could do something between Astro Orbiter and the stage. Like you could put something there. Um, Maybe it's a better meet and greet. Maybe it's I don't know. I don't Another shop. I don't know what it is, but I've always been bothered by how much valuable real estate is back there and no one is ever in it. Tomorrowland has a number of issues. I think they need to start there. Adding Tron, I don't think that has done anything for Tomorrowland because they filled in space that wasn't really being used. Um, so it's still Tomorrowland, and they could definitely put something in that back space that would draw people back there. A dance stage with Stitch showing up every once in a while is not a draw. Um, maybe some kids like to go back there and dance once in a while, but it's not a draw. I think putting, like the amount of space they have, maybe a meet and greet is the best thing to put back there.
Well, you gotta think about the fact that just because they have that space doesn't mean that that's all the space that they have. I'm pretty sure in that area there's more space depending on kind of where if we want to get into rerouting the train again, they could have more space. But I mean that would be another undertaking of kind of rerouting the train, doing all of that stuff. Or they could pull a what was it? Was it I think it was Pirates that goes under the train tracks in Disneyland. So it's they could
Right.
do something like that kind of takes you underneath and then up into a show building or something like that.
Well, the problem right there, though, is that you've got the road, you've got World Drive right there, so you can't go too much further back to build anything. But like Mirabelle has her new meet and greet area that is very popular, and obviously she doesn't fit into Tomorrowland, but there's got to be some characters that we could put back there in a meet and greet like that. Like there's enough space to build a Mirabelle style meet and greet space that could draw people back there.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what best to put back there, and I think I mean I'm gonna be. This is just for me. If there was a meet and greet back there, I still probably wouldn't go back there. But if it was like a shop or a ride or something like that, I feel like then that would give me like a lot more reason to go back there. But I totally understand what you're saying. And I think it's funny. I think we see that more because of the People Mover. Like you go through the People Mover, and I have this thought a lot where I'm just kind of like, what's this area? Like what's back here? And like you go through that whole area and you're like, wow, like there's nobody back here. And so we're able to get like a bird's eye view of like what's going on in Tomorrowland because of the People Mover.
I also feel like just even when I walk back there, though, it's just dead space. Like there's nothing back there other than that stage, and half the time there's nothing on the stage. So it drives me crazy that they have all that space back there not being used. What if they've done the dad from Carousel of Progress meet and greet at times? Put him out there. Bring some Star Wars characters in there. That would be interesting. They don't have to be just at Galaxy's Edge. They could be in Tomorrowland. Bring Darth Vader in there. Have some cool looking Star Wars meet and greet back there. I think that would draw people back there then. It would be fun to see something like that. You've got a launch bay in Disneyland's Tomorrowland, so it wouldn't be far-fetched to put that back there. I would just like to see a little bit more done to draw people into something. If someone's busy back there, it means they're not waiting in line for Peter Pan or any of the other rides that I want to get on. So, I feel like a meet and greet would be a quick and cheap way to fill that space. But enough on that. Why don't we talk Epcot?
Epcot. What would I change? Probably nothing. Moving on. Here we go.
Wow. There's nothing you want to change about it.
Other than the fact that everything is under construction and everything is currently changing. I don't know what I would want to change because everything is currently changing. And like World Showcase, I wouldn't change a thing. World Showcase, don't go changing. I don't want to miss a thing. That's a miss a thing. I don't want to change a thing. But yeah, we're kind of in this weird limbo of like knowing what the front of the park is actually going to be like. And I just love the back of the park so much that like I wouldn't want to change anything other than actually putting in some of the rides that they've proposed in the past into World Showcase. Like the Rhine River Cruise and stuff like that. That would be wonderful. But that's not a huge deal. But I don't know. I guess it's difficult on this one because they are kind of changing so much in the front of the park. So you don't really know exactly how all of that's going to play out. I thought when they were doing all of this that it was going to be kind of more of a big, like literally the whole like future world area was going to get a complete overhaul. And that's kind of not really what's happening. They're just like changing a couple areas. Like it doesn't seem like the land is going to change at all, which like, thank God, because I'm just waiting for the day that they're like, we don't need living with the land. We're just going to take that out. And being like, oh God, no. So yeah,
Well, so I agree with you on putting some of the stuff in that they have announced, like Mary Poppins. I think would have been cool to have in the UK. But for me, I would add Spain, or I think they've been talking Argentina, to add to the World Showcase. I think that's something that they could add. Uh, they've talked about it for years, doing something back there, and there is space back there to do it. But they just haven't been able to get that to be funded, I guess. So I think that's something I would like to see. And to your point with Future World and that they were going to be changing so much up front, they gutted the middle of that land, that part of the park, and they had a lot of plans that they ended up not doing because they didn't have the money for it. And I think that like Party Pavilion, I like to call it, like they were going to put that multi-story building in the middle that you would be able to watch fireworks from. I think that would have been a really neat addition. But unfortunately, it didn't keep its money funded, so they had to move on to something else. So I'm kind of interested to see what that looks like when the construction walls do come down finally. But I get what you're saying. There's so much that they're adding already, and so much that we're looking forward to that it's hard to think about what else to do.
it's also kind of hard to like understand. So even back when this park opened, it it's weird because like it has an identity crisis, but then at the same time, it really doesn't have an identity crisis because the Imagineers thought through so much of this park, but at the same time, it's like countries, like old world countries, and like new technology. That's kind of like what's happening. That's like always been like the idea of this park.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's tough because I feel like that I like they've been kind of getting away from that idea, but keeping kind of like this same vibe and this same feel of stuff. So it's like what they're coming out with in the front of the park. I've always thought that the Moana area seemed kind of weird to put that in there, but at the same time, it sounds awesome. So like, okay, but yeah, I've always thought of that area as just like future world, like all of like back in the day when you used to be able to walk through like all of the different exhibits of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of what I've always thought of that area. Um, so I guess it's kind of weird that now it's kind of shifting more into something else. Um, and I do feel like the one thing that I do enjoy, that this has turned into a rant of of how they're changing Epcot, but I do think it's going to be cool that the front of the park is going to have more festival stuff because
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have like that festival stage and everything. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's going to help kind of bring the festival into the entire park because it's always kind of felt like two different parks, really.
Right.
You've
Yeah.
got the World Showcase and you've got Future World. Um, but yeah, I I don't know. It's a tough one to decide exactly um what to change because there's so much change happening and there's kind of always change happening at Epcot. So I think I'm gonna go with bring back Figment Popcorn Bucket.
And maybe they will.
They probably will. Somebody, it's here's another rant, not really a rant. But somebody was talking about, hey, I got this free Figment popcorn bucket. Like, should I keep it or should I sell it? And my first reaction was like, oh my god, sell it. Like you'll probably get a lot of money. But then I went on eBay to like look at how much they're going for, and they're only going for like $55 now. Like back in the day, I think they were going for like $200, which was like insane. But now I think Disney has just come out with them so many times that like they're not as rare as they used to be anymore.
Right. Yeah. Which is kind of the point that they try to hit, is to limit how much people are making off of their stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
let's move on to Hollywood Studios. Um, Speaking of change, this just went through a big change with Star Wars coming in and Toy Story Land. But I feel like there's room for improvement. So, any ideas there?
Yeah, this has been something that I've thought of a lot. And it's tough because I've looked at the geography and I understand why they haven't done this. But I want them to like fully like actually make the Incredibles area, like that the Incredibles promenade or basically whatever that is, like actually go into Galaxy's Edge. Like I've never understood why that's a dead end. And I feel like since it's a dead end, people don't go in there. Like you
Yeah.
can very often go back in there and there's absolutely nobody back there. And it's a cool area. Like it's fun. Like I like The Incredibles and I like Pixar and like it has this cool vibe back there, but it's a dead end. And so like you can't just kind of like flow through it and be like, "Oh, this is cool. Oh my god, look at that." Like on your way to somewhere else, which is like that's kind of what happens with the geography of all these other parks is you never really like hit a dead end. You're just kind of like flowing into like another area as you're going along. So I feel like that has always been my thing. Like, oh god, they need to change this, because I feel like that's just why that area back there gets neglected so often. But looking at the actual geography of the park, I kind of understand because I think like that area would shoot you out into like um not only just Galaxy's Edge, but I think it's like a bunch of like I think that's where they've got like ships and stuff like right behind there. Um
Okay.
so it wouldn't be something easy to just like open up and be like, "Hey,
Hmm.
here's another entrance to Galaxy's Edge." Which if I remember correctly, I think Disneyland has more entrances to Galaxy's Edge than Disney World does. I thought I remember there being 3 entrances to Galaxy's Edge in Land, and there were only
Yes.
2 in World.
Yeah.
So
And that might be a geography thing too, based
yeah,
on what's already at Hollywood Studios, that they aren't able to build that third entrance. But
hmm
um, it's interesting, even if they could reroute from there, and I don't know the geography, I haven't looked at it like you have, but if there's a way to reroute around those ships or whatever, that would be kind of cool.
hmm
Because it is like you get back there into the Star Wars area and it's either in or out on one end or the other. You can't duck out early if you want, and that's kind of a long
hmm
walk if you're in a hurry or whatever. So I like it. It's a good point. Now for me, this park has a lot of heavy hitters, right? Like this is Marquee Ride Park. And other than Swirling Saucers and the Lightning McQueen show, I mean, you've got a couple of shows, right? But there aren't filler rides. It's either you're waiting in a line or you're riding a ride. You're not really enjoying what's going on around you or finding other things to do. And at the at the threat of losing listeners, I think it's time for Indiana Jones to go.
Yes. Yes. Yes, Brian. Thank you.
It's such a big area that's being used by this show. They could probably put a couple of filler rides in there, small dark rides that take up people's time and give you something to do while you're waiting for your next lightning lane. Like I think this is a prime space that needs to be developed differently. Don't get me wrong, the Indiana Jones show is a lot of fun, but I think it's reached its moment. And they're not even bringing in the crowd anymore. They're not taking volunteers, right? So it's just one of those times that I feel like one of the popular things that is there has reached its limit, needs to go, and could be used to help crowds, because it's such a difficult park to be in. It's time to say goodbye to Indy there, and especially if they're going to be bringing Indy in over at Animal Kingdom. We don't need the show.
Yeah, I completely agree. This has been something I've thought for a long time, because I think I've seen that Indiana Jones show once, and it was when I was very little. And now we just never walk over there. Like, I think we walked over there once, and that was when I think they had that like Indiana Jones museum area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it had gone away at that point. So we just walked back there to see if they had anything left. But it's like we never go back there. We never do that show. And you're right. There's so much space back there
Mm-hmm.
that they could be using for plenty of other things. But yeah, again, another kind of, Brian, you should be a like a park manager, because you keep thinking about like crowd management and like the problem areas where people don't go, and like getting people excited to go to those areas. So I like that. I like that thought process.
Thanks. I try. Well, it's just, when it comes to updating areas, changing a ride for the sake of changing a ride doesn't make sense to me. It's like, what can we do that's going to help the park? And for me, Indiana Jones isn't drawing the people that it needs to be drawing anymore, and it needs to be used differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching a stream the other day, and they were moving those giant boulder sets out of the way, and I'm looking at like where they're putting them while they're doing the show, and it's just like there's so much land back there that they
Mm-hmm.
could reuse. So yeah, I would like to see something, even if it's an alien swirling saucers type of ride, like that doesn't require a large footprint, right? You could put something back there. What if they did a Cars Land? I bet they could fit Cars Land in there.
Actually, though, that would be awesome.
Wouldn't it?
That would be perfect.
They wouldn't be able to get racers back there, but they could do a lot of other. They could do the Luigi ride and the Tomaters spin. So I think that's something that we could definitely put back there. So I think we've hit the nail on the head there for Hollywood Studios. What do you think about Animal Kingdom? They've offered up what they want to do with Dinoland. What would you do?
So you already took my thunder. I was just gonna say, Topper, plug your ears and just say Dinoland 100%. And they're already kind of doing that. They've offered up what they're doing, and I feel like, honestly, like the last thing about that, like the only thing that I really had a huge issue with, was Dinoland. Another thing that, I mean, I've done before and I actually really enjoyed, but I just feel like people just don't go back there, is Rafiki's Planet Watch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that, like, I mean, it just doesn't have the draw that it should, or like it just doesn't draw a lot of people. So that's one thing I would change. I guess like that's really Dinoland and Rafiki's Planet Watch are like the two things that I have the biggest issue with. Dinoland is changing, we know that. So, and I just don't know what we would do with Rafiki's Planet Watch. And I don't think it. Well, the thing about it too is that like you really can't change all that much, because that's
Right.
back how like they're doing all their tests and everything on the animals. That's like what Animal Kingdom is like. It's also like a working like clinic or whatever. Um, so like you can't really change all that much other than like theming.
Hmm. I would agree with that. There's not a lot they can do back there, but I feel like, I mean, having the animation experience is kind of helpful, but as we've talked about in the past, like I'm not going to take a train ride to do the animation experience unless I really have the time to do it. I think there's something charming about it back there. Feel like they could add something to it, though.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's I haven't been back there in a while. Because it's like, I mean, I honestly, like you said, the hardest part about going there is the time suck. That like you can't just, oh, I'm done with this. Like I've spent as much time as I want to spend here. Let me leave.
Hmm.
Kind of the same thing you were talking about with Galaxy's Edge, where it's like if you're in it, you're in it, and like you're doing Galaxy's Edge. Like if you're in the middle of Galaxy's Edge, like you have to, like it takes you a while to like walk out. You can't just be like, okay, like I'm done with this. Like let me quickly leave.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the tough part that I have with it, is that it's really just it's tough to get back there. Like, and then once you're back there, it's kind of like, this is cool. Okay, I'm done with this. And so it's like also
Right.
tough to, like, because it's literally a train. So yeah, I guess it would be like, how could we route people in there without needing to take a train? And I think they have the train because they don't want the animals so close to the park, like the actual park proper. Um, so they actually like take you out to somewhere else, kind of. I'm guessing that's kind of why they have like the train and everything.
Well, I was thinking about that too. Like, I think the train is there because when you're on the train, you see some backstage areas, and I think what you're going past some of the buildings that are needed to house the animals for the safari. Um, so like there's a reason why you're only able to look on one side of the train, right? So what you're going around may be even more backstage type stuff that they need to have there for the animals. Um, so I'm not sure that there's actually room around the train area that you'd be able to do anything. But I just feel like I've always felt like there needs to be more of a draw to Rafiki's Planet Watch. So now for
Is it?
me,
Oh, I was gonna say, is this yours too? But
no, no,
continue.
so I think that we're in agreement on the Planet Watch. We've always talked about that on this show. Um, but for me, going over to the lake near Expedition Everest and that show area where they did Kite Tails, which was a nice show. I want World of Color. I'm putting my stake in the ground. I've gone on wondering if they can put the fountains in there. I know they've done the water fans for Rivers of Light, so I know it's possible. Like they can do it. Give me World of Color. Give me something that is worthy of a nighttime spectacular in that park. You've got a full day park. You've got something that people are going to come to. Let's do it. Enough messing around. We don't, like I completely understand no fireworks, right? But let's get Rivers of Light. Rivers of Light. Yeah, we've tried that. It didn't work. World of Color, man. We need World of Color. Let's do it. I'm done messing around, people.
So I think it could be easily done to kind of, because World of Color, I feel like World of Color would go well in Hollywood Studios, but like they'd really, I mean, I don't think you could just take World of Color and put it into Animal Kingdom. I think it would have to be more like what the Tree of Life show is, where it's like more, I mean, like they could totally do it more like animal centric, but just using the World of Color technology that they have. The only other thing that I think of is that I think that lagoon that they built was man made. So it's easier to get all of their junk in there. Well, not that the lagoon in Animal Kingdom isn't man made, but I just don't know how they did that with in Animal Kingdom, like how they built that lake area. Um, it just seems like it would be a little more difficult to like get all the tech in there from how they did it at California Adventure, because I think that like lagoon in California Adventure is just like super. It's like not very deep. So I feel like that's why they were able to do what they did with it. Then again, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think
I
that's why they've been hesitant to do anything out there.
I completely agree with that. And I've said that in the past, but they did water fans for Rivers of Light, so it's possible they can do it. Let's stop messing around. Give me World of Color.
Mine is ready.
I'm done. Like this is go time, people.
I don't know. I liked Kite Tails. Just bring back Kite Tails. Can't we just do that?
Hey, Kite Tails during the day. You know, the only thing that can think of that's maybe stopping them is that boats go through there a lot. So it makes me wonder if that's why. But again, they did the water fans. They can make this work. It's Disney. Like this isn't some second-rate shop. This is Disney. They know how to make things work. And they've done it with the water fans, as I keep saying over and over again. Sorry about that, but yeah, let's get World of Color.
Yeah, and they have the water fans in there already. So.
All right, last one, Mikhailo. Let's think
Water
of the
fans.
whole Disney World resort. What are you changing?
The resort as a whole.
Yes.
I would change hotel prices.
Okay. Hotel prices. I like that.
No. You know what I would actually change is I find that I want to do this way more often. And that would be, and I completely understand that this would be like a complete like cluster, but somehow I would like to go from resort to resort without getting an Uber or going to a park and then going to a resort. As in, when I say resort, I mean like hotel. Because I find it, I mean, especially when I'm trying to like resort hop, I find myself needing to like go back to these hubs all the time to like get around to where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess, I mean, an expanded transportation, like somehow having an area. I mean, like I don't know exactly how they do it, but somehow having the ability to go from resort to resort. Maybe it's not even a bus, something like that. But I feel like that happens with me often, where I want to go from hotel to hotel for all of the different. Like it's not even like I just like want to go there to hang out. Like maybe I have a dinner reservation or something like that. I feel like that would be something that I would like to change with the transportation. Now, that would probably mean that there would be way more buses or cars or something like that out. But I think that, I mean, that would be helpful for me for like the way that I do Disney. And maybe it's kind of like a shuttle type thing where you could go to the front desk and be like, I need to get to this place, and they could like call you a shuttle, or something like that. I don't know, but I do find myself getting frustrated with needing to kind of go to these hubs to get to different hotels that I want to go to.
So this kind of hits on what I was going with my big change too, but to your point, I totally understand that frustration. It drives me crazy that I can't just go from one resort to another. But when you start really breaking it down, they're starting to get there. So let's look at the monorail. You've got the monorail that goes around the lagoon, so you can get to 3 resorts there pretty easily. You've got the Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness that you can grab boats. So that is kind of one of those spots where it's like, I have to find a new mode of transportation to get there. But then you take the Skyliner, we're connecting Pop Century and Art of Animation through Caribbean Beach and the Riviera. So you've got some of them connected there. Again, you go to Disney Springs, you've got the boat ride that goes from Disney Springs past Old Key West, Saratoga, the 2 Port Orleans. So those are connected, right? So you can kind of get there for certain resorts, right? But I completely understand that you can't leave an All-Star and take a bus over to the Grand Floridian, right? Or over to Port Orleans. I think that would be awesome. I question if the demand is there for that.
Well, so I guess here's my more specific change. Because I've tried to figure this out before in my head, where I was like, oh, we could take the Skyliner to Epcot, and then from Epcot we can get on the monorail and go to Magic Kingdom. You can't do that because you literally have
Right.
to go through the park. Like you have to have, I mean, I could do that now with an annual pass, but as a regular guest, you can't do that. So somehow having the ability to be at the front of Epcot and walk around to the Skyliner, I think that type of access would open things up a whole lot, because then you've got the monorail area and the Skyliner area all connected, and the Skyliner takes you to 2 different parks.
Mm-hmm.
So then really it's just kind of like Animal Kingdom that like is, I mean, Animal Kingdom is out on its own anyways already.
Right.
But yeah, that would be connecting a lot of stuff and being able to, like, I mean, that was my idea at one point, was we'll do the Skyliner resorts and then we'll do the monorail resorts, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh crap, but you have to go through Epcot to do that. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I was going to say, well, you could Skyliner to Hollywood and get on the bus then, but there you are going to a hub, right? So, yeah, it would be nice to do that. And to your point, and back to what I was saying, my change would be to put the Skyliner out to Animal Kingdom and Animal Kingdom Lodge. When they first built the Skyliner and you look at the maps, like it's not that far of a jump to be able to connect it to Animal Kingdom and that area. And you'd be able to bring in the All-Stars then doing that. And so I would love to see that happen. That's where my change is, or add. Let's get the Skyliner out to Animal Kingdom. I think that would quicken a lot of what's going on. It would help the bus situation in Animal Kingdom, because that's the only way in or out if you're not driving yourself.
yeah, I like that. I think that would be a great idea. But yeah, it's just something that kind of connects everything. I feel like doing that, and then I don't know, just having the ability to get to, and like you said, like they're there, like there are ways of like going to each resort, and having it be kind of connected, but there are those times that you need to like go to a hub to get to somewhere else. So
Right. Yeah. Um, But we want to know from you guys, like, what's your one change that you would make? Let us know. We'll read it on the show, or leave us a voicemail on our website, www.milesfrommainsT.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Miles from Main Street. Join us out there and let us know what you're thinking you'd like to see change in the parks.
But, like we always say, some live close,
but others don't.
So let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.